Hello, writers! It's Megan coming at you live in the All Writers Welcome Facebook group. I hope you're having a great day. And today I want to chat with you about 4 must-have scenes for your novel. And I'll also be taking questions. So if you have a question, feel free to put it in the comment and I will get to it live on the call. This is a great way to get your question answered immediately. So please feel free to do that. Okay, let's jump in. A lot of you are writing your guts out. A lot of you are working on your writing for Nano, and that can be a huge push, a huge accelerator when you are holding yourself accountable with word counts. So a really cool way to use that acceleration and that accountability is to make sure you have a big picture focus and that you are working on the kinds of scenes that will take your novel forward. So I'm going to walk you through those 4 must-have scenes, and guess what? They all have something in common. Ooh, let's see if you can guess what it is as you hear them. Okay, the first must-have scene is a first look at your main character, because this is going to tell us why we should care about the person who's the star of this novel. Now, I have a whole video out called Lightning Start or Writing Your First Scene that's about how to go through and create that first look. So I'm not going to go through it in detail, but I want to reiterate that your first look at your main character is your reader's opportunity to say yes, not just to your main character, but to your novel. Even if you're writing action adventure, even if you're writing a fantasy or some kind of futuristic science fiction, awesome story where you've done a lot of world building, what we connect to is your main character. That's what keeps readers tuned in. So when you give us that first look at your main character, you're giving us a chance to say yes to the entire rest of your novel. So make sure you've got a really fun or action-packed or whatever matches your genre, a really great way for us to do that. Okay, so that is must-have scene number 1, a first look at your main character that draws us in, makes us care about that person, connect to her, and want to know the rest of her story. And again, you can find details for how to create a great first scene in the Lightning Start video. You can find that in the videos tab in the Facebook group. You can find it on the All Writers Welcome YouTube channel. Lots of ways to hunt that down. Okie doke. The second must-have scene is your inciting incident. That, for those of you who are thinking, like, what are these terms Megan's using, is just the moment when your character says yes to the rest of the conflict. Now, that doesn't mean your character necessarily is like, all right, gung-ho, I'm going to solve this problem. It could be, right? If you're looking at kind of a hero's journey, if you're looking at an adventure, this could be the moment where your character's like, all right, yeah, I'm going to do that. But it might also be a place where your character gets pressured into taking action, or like your character is kind of like, enough is enough, you know, I'm not going to put up with this situation anymore, whether it's the bully or the dragon who's a bully. You know, it's that moment when your character is pushed into action. If you have an antagonist, this scene should involve your antagonist. It might not be the first glimpse of the antagonist, but the inciting incident is a tipping point. It's what makes the rest of the story happen. And you have to make this again, a scene that draws readers in, and this time you're getting us to care about the conflict. And we still care about your character because your character is the one who is going through that conflict, but this is the place where we have to get invested and go, yeah, I want to see what happens. I want to see what that looks like when that problem gets solved. Okay, that's your must-have scene number 2. Your third must-have scene is your character facing her worst fear. This is also what is known as your climactic scene. This is the place where it all explodes. The tension has been building ever since that inciting incident when your character said yes to the conflict, even if unwillingly. Things have been moving toward this point. They've been getting to the climax, this peak moment, this greatest tension. And it doesn't matter what genre you're writing in. Even if you're writing literary fiction and your characters spend most of their time in conversation, you know, think of a book like Pride and Prejudice. There's no action, there are no explosions, nobody's life is at stake. But even so, there is this climactic, tense moment where we're wondering, is this romance actually going to happen? So anything from literary fiction to a children's picture book has a climax. And having a scene that is the most fear-inducing for your character doesn't have to be something that involves life or death. Think about the kinds of things we're afraid of. You know, we're afraid of confronting somebody in our lives. We're afraid of public speaking. We're afraid of looking embarrassed. We're afraid of somebody not loving us, you know. So like your climactic scene might be where your character admits that she's totally had a crush on her best friend for years. And she's like, oh my gosh, is he going to love me back? Or is this going to ruin our friendship? And, you know, I'll be super embarrassed. So having your character face that greatest fear, that's your must-have scene, that's your climax. And here's something to keep in mind. Your climax should not be a surprise to readers. We should be able to guess how it at least is going to start. We don't have to guess how it will turn out, but we should be able to guess how it's going to start because you have been planting these seeds, right? Your character got drawn into this conflict based on something inside of her. And then you, as the author, built the tension and showed us things escalating to this moment we should be able to see. So don't be afraid of a climactic scene that you think is a little bit predictable. That's a good thing. That means that we're connecting with your character. We know what she's afraid of, and so we know what she has to face in order to move on and, you know, like get this story out of her system. All right. I should pause. Can you tell so far what's in common with all of these? The first one was the first look at your main character. Then it was your main character saying yes to a conflict. Then it was your main character having to face her greatest fear. Yes, the element in common is your main character because that's why she is your main character. You might have several very important characters in your story, and it's absolutely possible to have more than one protagonist in a story. And it means that each protagonist you create has to have these must-have scenes. She's got to have her own set of must-have scenes. So that's what is in common. That's what we're following. That's the thread that moves throughout. All right, so the final must-have scene is a last look at your main character. And this might be the final scene of your book, but it doesn't have to be. But it's the last opportunity we have to see what she's won, what she's lost, and how she's changed from having gone through this story. Because we as readers are looking to those elements to decide how we feel. And whether your story has a happy ending and everybody gets, you know, exactly what they wanted, or your story has a a gut-wrenching, sad ending, or it has a dramatic ending, or it has a frightening ending, we will take our cue about how to feel from what is happening to your main character. So it's vital that you give us that last look. And then also that could be a cool way to think of your ending. If you're somebody who doesn't like happy endings and you're like, oh, I don't know how to end things because I don't want it to all just be happy, so I'll just cut it off here. You don't have to cut it off. You don't have to end abruptly in order not to have a happy ending. You'll just show us your main character as, you know, not getting what she wanted. All right. So those 4 must-have scenes are for any novel, regardless of genre, regardless of length. And the reason they are must-haves is because they are the core of your main character's journey. They help us first get drawn in. We see your main character in the first scene, and we decide to follow her story because you've helped us connect with her, care about her, and see why it would be interesting to watch her work through some issues. Then you have shown us the key scene where she decides to say yes to the conflict, and saying yes doesn't mean necessarily she's willingly engaging with a conflict. It just means that for whatever reason, she can no longer avoid this conflict. And we say yes to the conflict because we've already said yes to the character. Then you build up the tension, you bring us to the climactic scene where it's the moment of your character facing her fear. And we are gripping the edge of the chair, wondering, will she get what she wanted? Will she overcome this obstacle? Will she use the skills that you've been showing us she's building? And we're really invested. And then finally, you leave us with that last view of your main character, where we get to see, based on what she's gained, what she's lost, and how she's changed, how we as readers should feel. And we end with this like really satisfied feeling. Even if you're writing a series, you guys, series writers, I especially want to drive that point home for you. You can write a fantastic series that leaves readers hungry for more while still writing a final scene that satisfies us. You have to leave us satisfied at the end of the book, even if you're also tempting us with the further delights that we'll get if we follow this character's journey more. All right, those are your 4 must-have scenes. And I want to encourage you to think about them as you're writing. But I also want to throw this out there. If you're doing Nano and you're like, I should have thought about this sooner. You know, I'm already 30,000 words in. You don't have to stop and go back, because these 4 elements are not only things to think about while you're drafting, they're also things to think about while you're revising. These are pieces that you can use to shape your story once you've gotten a rough draft. You can come back and overlay these elements and shape scenes you already have to make them fit this. So you don't have to stop and restart your draft. You can keep going, knowing that you'll be using these to revise. Okay, so speaking of revising, I want to plant this seed for you. Nano is coming to an end in just a few weeks. And Ella and I know that a lot of you are gonna end the month and have these drafts and go, what should I do with them now? All right, so we have some machinations and some fun plans for all of you who are going to end up with that draft and want to know what to do with it next. You'll be hearing more details about this. It's a pop-up group we're starting specifically for those of you who have a draft and want to know what to do next with it. It's going to be a pop-up group that goes for just the month of December. And it will include trainings, master classes, how to take your next steps and get you revved up for figuring out how you can take your finished manuscript and turn it into a book that is selling on Amazon. So I want you guys to keep that on your radar if you're doing Nano, or if you just happen to be coming up on finishing your draft, finishing your manuscript, and you're thinking, what is next? Look out for our pop-up group, Book Launch Like a Boss. Oh yeah, blab, Book Launch Like a Boss. We're going to be letting you guys know how you can check out that pop-up group, and it will just be for people who are serious about launching, because here's what we're going to do. We're going to get a committed group of you who are ready to launch your books and help you go through all the steps, from revising and looking at your story structure. Oh my gosh, do I have these 4 key scenes? You know, what other key scenes do I need? Let me look at my dialogue, all the things you need to polish your story and build your launch team. And so it's really important that it's people who are ready to launch, because you're going to work with one another and support one another as you blast off into space. Okay, so look for more details about Book Launch Like a Boss. Ooh, oh, good. Cecilia, you're saying that pop-up group is just what you need. Yeah, so it's going to be just for people who are serious about moving forward with their manuscripts, not like, oh, I think I want to start writing something. It's like, I'm ready, I've got it, and I'm ready to blast off. we're gonna pump you guys all up with rocket fuel and light you on fire and send you into space. It's gonna be awesome. So look out for more details, and do make sure to let us know what questions you have that you'd like us to tackle in our live videos. You can always leave comments in the group, and if you feel like you can't make the lives because you don't know when they are, try to be consistent about time, but today's a day where I'm coming in early because that's the way the scheduling works. You can get email notices about when we go live if you sign up for our newsletter at allwriterswelcome.com/newsletter. And if you join our newsletter, that's also where you'll be guaranteed you're getting our best content, because you'll be getting our videos, our blog posts, everything sent directly to your inbox so that you don't miss anything. All right. Oh, Cecilia, thank you. I so appreciate you said, she said, you and Ella are a godsend. I love you guys. We love you too. Woohoo! Keep up the excellent work. All right. And I wish you all a day of very happy writing and getting your word counts. All right. Have a wonderful one. Take care, everybody. Bye.